Welcome, everyone, to the New York Football Report. This is Joe McDonald here with you, and I am joined by Peter Schwartz, one of our senior columnists in New York Sports Day. Pete, how are you?
I'm doing good, Joe. How are you?
Oh, I'm doing all right. I'm doing okay. So it looks like the New York Jets have a new head coach.
Yeah, reports last night that Adam Gase is going to be their new head coach, the former Dolphins head coach. And if you judge the reaction from Jets fans on Twitter, it's not a positive decision. It's an interesting choice by the Jets. I don't like the pick, but given what was left of the candidates to choose from, I don't think you can go too crazy about it. I would have preferred Mike McCarthy to take the job, but in Adam Gase, they do get a bright young, offensive mind to tutor Sam Darnold, and I think that's what this hire is 100% all about.
Yeah, I believe that's what they're looking to do, is to work with Sam Darnold. But you had Mike McCarthy, who has, a 618 winning percentage from Green Bay, knocking on your door, wanting to coach the Jets. And the Jets said, nah, no thanks. We're going to go with the guy who's 2 games under 500. It just doesn't make sense to me.
It's mind-boggling, and see, that leads to the real issue here. The issue, I think, once Jet fans take 24, 48 hours to kind of decompress after, letting this all sink in, the big issue is that we know that the Jets won't let their new head coach hire the staff. The Baylor coach said no because he couldn't hire his own staff, and apparently that might have been, a sticking point with Mike McCarthy too. How do you tell a Super Bowl winning head coach that he can't put together his entire staff? So in Adam Gase, they find a guy who obviously wants to get right back into coaching after losing his job with Miami. He stays in the AFC East, gets a chance to burn the Dolphins a couple of times a year, and is probably willing to listen to Mike McCagnon and Christopher Johnson, in putting a staff together. And I think that's the biggest issue here is Jet fans just don't trust this organization and this regime. And that's where the problem is. You can't trust the process they went through to get to this point, and you can't trust that they made the right decision here in Adam Gase.
Well, that's the thing. Where you have the obvious on the table. So the obvious on the table is you got a Super Bowl winning coach, possible Hall of Fame coach. I mean, wore out is welcome, I think, in Green Bay. Team got complacent up there. That's why they made the change. And every coach has a certain lifeline to them, and it was McCarthy's time. But, when he comes knocking on the door, you just give him the keys to the kingdom. I think this is more on McCagnon, who probably didn't want to give up some control. With
Right.
Gase, he has control. With McCarthy, he doesn't have control. And if they don't win, it would be McCagnon out the door next year with McCarthy staying.
See, this is the way it's supposed to work in the NFL. The owner is supposed to go out and do his due diligence and hire the best possible football chief, whether it's a general manager or a vice president of football operations. You go out and hire the best possible football guy to run your franchise. The football guy then goes out and hires the best possible head coach who he feels will be the best guy, and then you let the head coach fill out his staff and hire his people. Now, you may take some suggestions from your football chief, but the head coach should be responsible for hiring his staff. Now, the only other way that it works, similar to that, is that if the owner goes out and hires, like the Jets when they hired Bill Parcells was brought in as the head coach and the chief football officer, and he had the final say on everything. That he brought in a guy to help him, with the salary cap stuff and things like that. And it's kind of how it works. When you bring in a big time head coach, he may hire his own general manager, but really it's only a general manager in title. The football coach has the final say on all operations. And with the Jets here, you've got a situation where both the coach and the general manager, they both report directly to the owner. And that just leads to so much dysfunction. And that is really the big crux of the problem with the Jets is that you don't have a standard order of operation here. You have two guys who should be in unison with each other, each reporting to the owner, and that just doesn't make any sense in the world, and that's why Jet fans just don't have any trust in the organization.
Right, exactly. I think that's the problem. There's been so many years of this issue that you had the issue with Rex Ryan and John Isdek. You had Mike Tannenbaum there, who hired Rex Ryan, and then it had Mangini, and then it had Herm Edwards beforehand. So there was never since Parcells, never really an adult in charge of the organization. That they've been flowing back and forth since Woody Johnson owned the team. So, I mean, I firmly believe the Johnson brothers want to win. They have the money. They will spend the money. They just, don't have the acumen of firing a good football guy. And they had one staring at him right in the face, and they turned it down.
Well, when you own a professional sports franchise, I mean, you have to be connected in with the league that you're coaching. In the case of Woody Johnson, now Christopher Johnson, it's just mind-boggling how this family has owned this team, going back to 2000, and they're just not connected enough in league circles to make a hire. And you look no further than the New England Patriots. Bob Kraft came in and immediately knew what he was doing. He inherited Bill Parcells, but he went out and did his due diligence and obviously made a great hire in Bill Belichick. To me, when you have to go to a headhunter to go find a general manager, and how this headhunter came up with John Idzik, and now you hire these consultants to consult you on a head coach and a general manager, and you hire Todd Bowles and Mike Maccagnan at the same time over dinner, and you just make sure the two of them can work to each other. Well, that's no different than an arranged marriage. You put a guy and a girl in a room over dinner. You think you guys can live with each other? That's not how it works in professional football. You've got to let your general manager make the hire. Now, in this case here, you fired Todd Bowles. If I'm the Johnsons, Christopher Johnson especially, because he's in charge, if you trust Mike Maccagnan to be your general manager, well, then you have to let Mike Maccagnan make the hire, and you let the coach report to him, not this convoluted way of what they're doing. If you don't have the trust in Mike Maccagnan to hire your coach, then you go hire a general manager to do it, or you hire a big-name coach that can be the chief football officer. So everything that the Jets do here from a football standpoint is so anti and the antithesis of what it really should be.
Right, exactly. And you got to give Maccagnan credit. He did trade up. He did get Donald last year, and it was, and it looks like he's going to be the franchise quarterback for the next 10 years. But,
and that saved his job right.
Joe,
that saved his job right now. If he doesn't make that trade up and get Sam Darnold, Maccagnan's looking for a job too.
Right, but if you don't get if you got Sam Darnold and now you hired Gase, you're burning 3 years of Darnold's career if it doesn't work out, really kind of going into his prime. And that's the issue. It's like if you look at the quarterbacks like that, Eli Manning and Ben Roethlisberger and even Aaron Rodgers, they won within the first 3 or 4 years. They won Super Bowls within their first 3 or 4 years. They're not winning in their 30s. They might, they're still serviceable quarterbacks, and Eli's on his downside. Roethlisberger is Roethlisberger, and he's not. These teams aren't as great, but that when they win their Super Bowls, they're in their 20s. So if it doesn't work out with Gase, you're burning those years where Donald could actually possibly lead a team to the Super Bowl.
Well, the situation here now is that really Mike Maccagnan is on the shortest leash possible. At least I would like to think he is, because unless this team makes a remarkable turnaround, now they have all that money in free agency, $100 million or so. If they go out and get the right players and they turn this program around and they go 9-7 or 10-6 and they make the playoffs, or at least they show signs of improving, then I think Maccagnan will come back again. But he's under a very short leash here, Joe. if the Jets flop to 6-10 and 5-11 or 4-12 again next year under Gase, McCagnon's on the way out, and then you don't know what's going to wind up happening. You could have a completely new regime, right from scratch again. So, Mike McCagnon better hope, and if he had any influence over Christopher Johnson and not going towards Mike McCarthy here, and he put his eggs in the basket of Adam Gase that we'll turn this thing around, and it doesn't, then this is all on Mike McCagnon, and now you're back to square one a year from now.
Right, and that's going to be the issue. I mean, it's, we hope so. I hope Gase works out. I hope he's, turns Donald into a Hall of Famer, and I hope, Mike McCagnon can get with the money he has and has a good draft and everything else, and the Jets turn the corner, and Gase is it proves to be the hot shot coordinator that Miami hired 3 years ago that would be the next big thing in the NFL. I hope all that happens.
Yeah.
But to me, the safe pick was Mike McCarthy, and they didn't take the safe pick.
No, they took a big chance here, and they're doing it. Excuse me, they're doing it at. When you look at this off season, Joe, it's the most important off season in Jets history since Kotite was gone. Because then they turned around and hired Parcells, and he changed the culture for the time that he was here, and changed the perception of the franchise. In this situation here, you had a chance to do something all over again. You had a chance to bring in a coach that won the Super Bowl, and there was always this part of me that said, well, there's never been a head coach that has won a Super Bowl with two different teams. There's been coaches that have taken two teams to the Super Bowl but never won. But you know what? You can't really worry about that right now. You want to turn the Jets into a winning program, and the coaching candidate out there with the best resume was Mike McCarthy. And you, like I think you said before, you give this guys the keys to the castle. You let him run everything. And if you want to keep Mike McCagnon as the GM in name, then you keep him as the GM in name. But and listen, I have no axe to grind with Adam Gase. I think he's a good football coach. We'll find out really now how good he is as a head coach. But the safe pick in this juncture of the team's history with what they have at stake in this offseason would have been Mike McCarthy. And I think the Jets squandered an opportunity here.
Yeah, I really do. I think the Jets squandered an opportunity. Gase would have been a good pick if McCarthy wasn't out there, but it is what it is. The Jets seem to be happy with their man, so we have to live with it right now and see how it works out.
Well,
hopefully we're not having this conversation the same conversation over again in 3 years.
Well, at the end of the day, I'll be tuned in and watch the Adam Gase press conference, hear what he has to say. Maybe he'll say some things that pump up the fan base. Be there at training camp watching the team evolve. You'll follow the offseason for all the free agency moves, whatever trades they make, and you're going to be right in front of your TV or in the press box or in the seats on opening day, hoping for the best. But it's just it was a very, very surprising move, given the circumstances, and anyone who has stayed on Twitter since about 7:00 last night when the news broke. I guess it was around 7:00 last night. That this was not a very popular decision in the eyes of very, very large majority of Jet fans. So it's going to be interesting to see how this evolves over the next few days and in weeks as Gase takes over and puts his staff together and they start to formulate a plan for the offseason.
Yeah, and that's going to be interesting. For first things first, there's probably going to be a press conference in the next couple of days with them, and I guess we're going to find out exactly why they like them, and we'll take it from there. But
maybe Joe, he was the only coaching candidate when they showed the new jerseys to him. He was the only one who liked it.
Could be. Anything is a step up from that Miami teal, right?
I am curious to see what these new jerseys are going to look like. As you know, I'm a big sports memorabilia guy and jersey fanatic, and I'm kind of interested to